Hey guys, Tom here. Welcome back to the Grantham Pub Underground. Today, I think, if you remember last time we talked about a bourbon tasting party and how to enjoy bourbon just by itself. But you can do more with bourbon. So today we're going to continue that and make a few bourbon cocktails. Now, there are the standard, when I think of a bourbon cocktail, I think of two things. I think of an old fashioned and I think of a mint julep. Love them both. But we're gonna do something a little different. I mean, as you know me, I love bourbon. Whether it's, like I said, old fashions, mint juleps, bucks, smashes. If it's got bourbon, I'm in for it. But today, we're gonna do a couple, and I always forget to turn on my sign. 3 bourbon cocktails. Actually, we're gonna do them not in that order, and these are gonna be great. This is where you use, if you're mixing it with a lot of stuff, if you remember from our bourbon tasting, this is where you just use your blended, or I think they call it NAS, not age specific, I think it is, where you just get some bourbon, you mix up your cocktail, and you enjoy a nice drink. And we're gonna start in the middle with the Kentucky Blizzard. I know it's getting into spring, but this is the Kentucky Blizzard. And it is going to have 2 ounces of bourbon, and I'm just using my plain old regular everyday bourbon that I like. Two ounces of that. Ooh. And then the same amount of cranberry. A little bit of lime juice, about 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. Screw it. And about the same amount of Grenadine. So there's that. And even though it's got the grenadine in it, we're still gonna put a tiny little splash. You can put sugar. I just happen to have some simple syrup. A little bit of that. I'm gonna give it a little shake with some ice. Find an appropriate glass. How about this one? Red and blue go well together. I think an appropriate little garnish would be a lime. You can put it on there. You can float it right in. It's kind of a sad lime. I'm just going to float it. And that gets us out of the gate with a Kentucky Blizzard. Have no idea why they call it that. Okay, moving right along. Next up, we are going to make a drink called a Midnight Cowboy. Again, some bourbon. Where's my mixer? So this is basically 2 parts bourbon, I just about made it. That one's free. 2 parts bourbon, 1 part dark rum. Now I would never think to mix bourbon and rum, but if you think about it, especially a dark rum, that might be barrel aged. Bourbon is barrel aged, so it kind of makes sense. And then, so it's two parts bourbon, 1 part rum, and then half a part of cream. And then just like before, a little ice, a little shake. So, tell me, if you're a bourbon drinker, what do you like about bourbon? And if you're not actually, you know what? That kind of looks like coffee, like a nice coffee type of deal. Are you yay or nay on bourbon? I don't know what you would go. I guess you could sprinkle a little something on there, but that's your Midnight Cowboy. I'm looking forward to trying these. And then finally, what better a good old bourbon drinker than good old JR? We are going to make a JR's Revenge. I guess this is the drink he made after he got shot. So he got shot, and he came back to life, and then this is his revenge. And I know why it's revenge, which you'll see. And this drink is mostly bourbon, so this is where you could maybe splurge and use one of your little better bourbons. Now, I wouldn't use something super smoky, super oaky, something that's aged a real long time. Maybe like, I'm using this is a 100 proof bottle and bond bourbon. If you remember what that is, that's just bourbon that is, when it's made under certain specifications. And I think why it's revenge is because the next thing we're going to put in is some Southern Comfort. Like I told you before, I only buy little bottles of Southern Comfort because nothing good happens when you drink a lot of Southern Comfort. I remember that from college. So this is just going to be about for 3 ounces of bourbon, ½ ounce of Southern Comfort, just to give it that little bit of, Southern Comfort flair, as it were. And then just a couple splashes of bitters. I need another ice. Here's another ice. And certainly JR would never drink this in a cocktail glass. Well, I can't imagine JR would even drink this drink, to be honest with you. He would just have a little bourbon and branch and call it a day. So, in the spirit of JR, a couple chunks of ice, and that's some clear ice. Maybe I'll show you how to make clear ice one day. It's very simple. Do I don't even know if I have another coaster. I'll be right back. I don't. Yeah, Jared, you need a coaster. So there you have it, a JR's Revenge. So what are these going to taste like? Well, it's bourbon, so it's going to taste good. Do we want to go fruity and citrusy first or creamy first? It doesn't matter because either combination is not going to end up well. So this is the Kentucky Blizzard. That's nice. This is almost like a bourbon Cosmo, for lack of a better word. That's good. Okay, Midnight Cowboy. I mean, it's certainly bourbon forward because it's mostly bourbon. I guess you do get a little back. What's the word I'm looking for? Not like a richness. yeah, I guess like an aged sweetness kind of from the dark rum. Now I used Gosling's. I think it would have been a little different if I used, and I also used half and half. I think to make this again, I think I would use Myers and heavy cream, make it a little richer and a little more. I think there's a little more sweetness to the Myers than the Goslings, but it's good too. And then finally, you just sit around on the ranch, waiting for our oil wells to spout, talking to the gang about how rich we are. Here's to JR. Again, I just really taste bourbon. I don't know what it's. I mean, it's kind of like it's almost. This is what I would liken this to. This is kind of like a Manhattan, because you have the whiskey and the bourbon. I think the Southern Comfort kind of replaces the sweet vermouth. Although I hate to say this, I actually think it could use a little more. And then the bitters. But this is a good one. I think I would rate this, well, it depends on what I was doing. If I was just hanging out, in my hat and boots with the boys, smoking cigars, talking about how rich we were, I would drink this one. For like a cocktail, this is how you get somebody who doesn't think they like bourbon to like bourbon. You give them this one. And then this one, I mean, this is just a good bourbon drink. It's a little more sophisticated if you want bourbon, something different. But there you have it, guys. Bourbon cocktails. Bourbon is more than just a drink that you drink on the rocks. It really makes good cocktails. And you can mix it up by using the different bourbons. So we'll talk about this more because, like I said, the Grantham Pub Underground podcast is coming. And the first episode, which is kind of in production now, is going to expound on our discussion of bourbon. So all the things that we couldn't talk about in these quote unquote shorter videos, we're going to get into. So stay tuned for that. I certainly will let you know. I hope you will listen to it, support that. And again, for everybody that's come back, thank you. Cheers to you. For everybody that's here for the first time, welcome and cheers to you. Make sure you subscribe to the Grantham Pub Underground. Hit the bell icon so that way when a new video comes up about bourbon, about rum, about beer, about wine, you'll be notified. You can check it out and expand your entertaining repertoire and impress all your family and friends with everything you know and everything you can do with spirits, cocktails, wine, beer. It's a good time every time we're together. So I hope you come back again and again. And until I see you, remember, drink responsibly, have fun. And until then, I'll save a seat at the bar for you. Cheers.